Everyone wants your attention. Silence has become more than a luxury. It's now a weapon, a strategy, a shield for the few who can handle its power. Let me ask you something, and don't lie to yourself. When was the last time you sat in complete silence? No phone, no Spotify, no TikTok, no podcasts, no group chat buzzing in the background. Just you and your mind. That voice inside your head you've been avoiding. Feels uncomfortable just thinking about it, right?
That's not an accident.
We've been trained, conditioned to equate noise with value. If it's trending, it must be important. If it's quiet, it must be irrelevant. But here's the truth the world doesn't want you to realize. Noise is distraction, silence is information. Noise consumes, silence creates. Let's make that real. There was a CEO, a real powerhouse, multi-million-dollar tech company, blue check marks, interviews, stage lights. His calendar was booked 6 months out. Podcasts, panels, growth hacks. But behind all that, he hadn't spent 10 minutes alone with his thoughts in years. Not without a screen, not without a metric, not without noise. Then one day during a silent retreat his therapist begged him to take, he had a panic attack.
Why?
Because for the first time his inner voice had space to speak. And it said one, "Istordi, you don't know who you are anymore." He realized he built an empire on a mask, and the silence unmasked him. She was 17, pretty, smart. Her Instagram, flawless. Always texting, always FaceTiming, always posting. Everyone said she was living her best life. Then her mom found her unconscious. Attempted overdose. In her journal, one line stood out. "When it's quiet, I hate myself." No one saw it coming. Because the world teaches girls how to pose, how to filter, how to perform, but never how to sit with pain. Never how to process it in silence. Never how to face the ugly, the true, the unspeakable. She wasn't addicted to attention. She was running from herself. And the silence had been screaming louder than any crowd ever could. Now flip the coin. There was a Navy SEAL, decorated, respected. After his last tour, people kept asking how he stayed calm, how he didn't panic in chaos, how he made decisions under gunfire.
He said,
"I trained myself to be comfortable in silence. Every day, no noise, just my breath, my thoughts, in the worst-case scenario." He wasn't fearless. He was familiar with himself. While others ran from silence, he mastered it. That's the Stoic edge. It's not that they feel less. It's that they face more internally than most people can survive externally. Here's what you need to understand. The human brain is a battlefield. Your mind is either 1, a temple you sharpen in solitude,
or
2, a prison you escape through distraction. There is no middle. Most people walk around with unprocessed trauma, broken belief systems, suppressed insecurities, all buried beneath constant stimulation. But silence exposes it all. And that's why people fear it. They're not scared of boredom. They're scared of what they might find when the noise stops. The Stoics believed that silence wasn't absence, it was presence. That when the world falls quiet, the soul speaks. And most people, they've never actually heard theirs. That's why Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, not to impress others, but to listen inward. He ruled an empire, yet carved out hours just to sit, think, write. Now you can't go 5 minutes without checking if someone texted back. See the difference? One was mastering the world by mastering his mind. The other, trapped by it. Let me give you the most dangerous truth of our generation. They don't want you to sit in silence. Because the moment you do, you might wake up. You might realize, hey, you're addicted to dopamine. You're chasing someone else's dream. You've never confronted your own grief, rage, shame. You've become a product, not a person. And in that stillness, if you're brave enough to sit in it, that's where clarity is born. That's where healing happens. That's where the real you starts to wake up. Not the version curated for followers. Not the voice edited for approval. The you that's been buried under everyone else's noise. We live in a world engineered to keep your mind noisy, not by accident, but by design. It begins the second you open your eyes. Your alarm clock doesn't just wake you up. It jolts your nervous system into survival mode. You're not rising, you're reacting. You grab your phone, still groggy, and within seconds your brain is bombarded. DMs telling you what drama you missed. Influencers showing you what your life should look like. News headlines reminding you that the world is falling apart. Targeted ads whispering, you're not enough. But this product can fix that. This isn't just noise. It's psychological warfare, and it's profitable. Attention is currency. If companies can hijack your focus, They can control your behavior, what you buy, how you feel, even what you believe. The more distracted you are, the easier you are to manipulate. The more noise in your mind, the less room for truth.
Imagine this.
You wake up and spend just 15 minutes scrolling through TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube Shorts. You laugh at a meme. You frown at some political outrage. You see a beautiful model and suddenly feel insecure. You hear a sad story, then skip to a prank video. Your mood is shifting every 4 seconds. By the end of those 15 minutes, your brain has cycled through more emotions than ancient warriors experienced in a week. What does that do to your mind? It fragments it. You become emotionally scattered, spiritually numb. Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." That's what this noise does. It scatters your soul until you're lost in your own skin. In 2011, Harvard neuroscientists discovered that when people talk about themselves, what they're doing, thinking or feeling, the reward centers of the brain light up. Meaning self-disclosure gives a dopamine hit comparable to eating food or receiving money. Now connect the dots. Every scroll, every post, like it's triggering a biological loop. Your brain gets high off of tiny, meaningless inputs. And the tragedy? You're not in control anymore. The noises. Try this challenge. Sit alone in a room, no phone, no music, no TV, just you in silence for 15 minutes.
What happens?
Most people can't do it. After 3 minutes, their leg starts bouncing. After 6, they check the time. By 10 minutes, they're panicking.
Why?
Because silence removes the mask. And what's underneath your insecurities, regrets, unresolved pain starts to surface. But here's where Stoicism offers a brutal truth. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke. Marcus Aurelius. Noise prevents you from seeing how much of your suffering is self-inflicted. Silence shows you the truth, and the truth is uncomfortable. But it's also liberating. Constant noise doesn't just distract you, it robs you. It steals your presence. You're physically here, but mentally nowhere. It dulls your intuition because your own inner voice is drowned out. It erodes your identity. You become a collage of everything you've consumed instead of something original. We've confused being informed with being awake. But most of us are drowning in facts and starving for wisdom. We scroll for 6 hours a day but can't sit still for 10 minutes. We know what's trending but don't know what we believe. We've got noise in our ears and nothing in our souls. A Stoic call to awareness. Epictetus once warned, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And how can you master yourself, your thoughts, your actions, your mind, if it's constantly being commandeered by chaos? The first step to reclaiming your inner power isn't doing more. It's subtracting. Less noise, more meaning. Because silence, uncomfortable as it is, does not lie. It is the space where clarity lives. And the world will do everything to keep you from it. Silence isn't empty. It's not peaceful background noise. It's not calm. It's confrontation. Because the moment the world gets quiet, your real self shows up. No filters, no distractions, no excuses. Just you and what you've been running from. That's why people panic when they're alone in a quiet room. That's why we blast music. Why we scroll endlessly. Why we can't take a shower without a podcast playing in the background. Because silence turns into a mirror. And that mirror doesn't flatter you, it exposes you. It reflects the truth. The dreams you abandoned. The lies you've told yourself. The potential you've wasted. The pain you buried under fake smiles. The rage you disguised as just tired. Most people don't avoid silence. They avoid themselves. I knew a guy on the surface. He had it all. Corporate job. Great body. Always joking. Always the life of the party. But he couldn't sleep without the TV on. Not ever. He said silence made him feel weird. One night his power went out. No light, no sound. Just the hum of the city outside his window. 30 minutes in, he had a panic attack. Because that night, he heard something he hadn't heard in years. His own thoughts. They weren't pretty. They weren't filtered or optimized or likable. They were real. All the stuff he'd buried with performance and noise came flooding back. That's the cost of avoiding silence. It builds pressure. The Stoics were masters of silence. They believed solitude wasn't isolation. It was preparation. It was where you trained your soul, where you met your inner demons and made peace or war with them. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." But most people's souls aren't retreats, they're battlegrounds. And that's why silence terrifies them. Because silence doesn't numb you. It doesn't entertain you. It doesn't distract or flatter or manipulate you. Silence just tells the truth. And when your life is built on denial, truth feels like violence. You think noise is external music, phones, news feeds. But the real noise, it's the voice in your head saying, "You're not enough. You should be further by now. Why even try?" We drown that voice in podcasts and playlists and small talk. But in silence, it echoes. And here's the paradox. You must face that voice to ever quiet it. You must enter the silence to ever find peace. Sit still. No phone, no music, no books, no conversation. Just you and your mind for 20 minutes a day. You'll feel bored, restless, anxious. But that's not the silence hurting you. Never do it. Because they'd rather stay distracted than be disarmed. They'd rather keep scrolling than start healing. Silence is the arena where your conscience speaks. Your calling whispers. Your truth emerges. It's where the ego dies and the soul wakes up. And while most people are busy avoiding themselves, you will meet yourself. And once you do, no noise in the world can ever drown you again. Let's stop pretending. Most people today aren't just using their phones. They're addicted, but not to the device, to the dopamine. Every time you unlock your phone, every notification, every like, every new video, it triggers a hit. A rush of dopamine, a chemical your brain releases when it anticipates something rewarding. Not when it gets the reward, when it anticipates it. That's why you keep scrolling. Not because what you're watching is amazing, but because the next thing might be.
It's not entertainment.
It's a slot machine, and you're the addict pulling the lever. Think about it. You're sitting in bed, it's 2:47 a.m. Your eyes burn, your neck aches, but you keep scrolling. Your thumb moves on autopilot. You're not laughing, you're not learning. You're not even awake anymore. You're just chasing the next hit.
Why?
Because silence, real stillness would mean facing the fact that, you're lonely. Yet you're unfulfilled. You're behind on the life you pretend to have online. So you keep the feed moving. You keep the noise on. Because stimulation feels safer than stillness.
But here's what no one tells you.
Every moment of cheap stimulation is a trade. You're selling off pieces of your attention, your clarity, your discipline. You're becoming mentally bankrupt. Studies show the average person touches their phone 2,717 times a day. Now ask yourself, how many times do you reflect? How many moments of intentional silence do you allow? None? That's not just distraction. That's addiction.
And the worst part?
It's an addiction society encourages. Apps are built to keep you hooked. Designers literally use psychological warfare, variable rewards, infinite scroll, red notification badges to exploit your brain. You're not weak. You're being engineered. But silence? Silence cuts through the manipulation. It reveals just how much of your free will has been sold to the algorithm. Stoics didn't have smartphones, but they understood addiction to stimulation. They believed that a man who cannot be still, who constantly needs noise and activity, is not strong, he's enslaved. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Epictetus. If you can't control your attention, if you need a screen every 10 minutes just to feel normal, then you are not in control of your life. You're a servant to your urges, to your dopamine, to the illusion of connection.
Here's the paradox.
The more stimulation you flood your brain with, the numb you become. Hushed music gets boring. Movies feel long. Books feel like chores. Conversations feel dull.
Why?
Because your brain is so used to the rapid-fire chaos of digital life, it can't tolerate real life anymore. You're overstimulated and underfulfilled, and it shows. You're anxious for no reason. You can't focus. You forget why you even opened your phone. You chase productivity hacks but feel lazy all day. The real problem? You've rewired your brain to crave novelty instead of meaning. Now picture this. You turn your phone off for 24 hours. No scrolling, no texting, no screens. Just you and silence. At first, it's hell. You feel twitchy, empty, like something's missing. That's withdrawal. But keep going. And something strange happens. You notice how loud birds really are. You catch your own thoughts mid-sentence. You feel ideas returning to you. You breathe slower. You finally feel alive.
Why?
Because for the first time in years, you're not being drip-fed dopamine by a machine. You're present. You're clean. This is the war now, not against others, not against the system, against your impulses. Because if you can't sit in silence without reaching for your phone, you're not addicted to the device. You're addicted to escaping yourself. And you will never become dangerous, focused, or fulfilled until you break that chain. Silence isn't weakness. It's not passive. It's not soft. Silence is tactical. It's power under control. It's what separates those who react from those who rule themselves. You don't need to be a monk in the mountains to use silence. You need to be a warrior in the modern world, and warriors know the value of stillness before the strike. Here's how to weaponize silence in the real world, like a master of psychological warfare. 1. In conversation, let silence be your shield. The next time someone tries to insult you, don't react. Don't defend. Don't justify. Don't even flinch. Pause. Hold eye contact. Say nothing. Do you know what happens? They crack. Because silence doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're undisturbed. And nothing rattles insecure people more than someone who won't take their bait. Silence is a source of great strength. Lao Tzu, real-life scenario. A man once confronted a Stoic philosopher in the marketplace and hurled verbal abuse at him in front of a crowd. The Stoic listened, nodded slowly, and walked away in silence. When asked later why he didn't respond, he said, "If someone hands you a gift and you don't accept it, to whom does it belong?"
That's power.
2. In conflict, silence gives you leverage. When tensions rise and voices escalate, most people do the worst thing possible. They speak too soon. They react from the wound, not the wisdom. But you pause. You breathe. You step back not out of fear, but strategy. Because when you delay your response, you give yourself space to, now cool the fire inside. See their motives clearly. Strike with precision, not desperation.
This is Stoicism in action.
We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Seneca. Reacting in anger feels powerful, but it's weakness dressed up in noise. Responding after reflection, that's strength disguised as silence. Remember, every second you hold your silence in conflict, you gain leverage. You stop being a player and become the game master. Put the podcast down, leave the phone, step outside. Now walk, or sit, or just be. No agenda, no distraction. Your mind will twitch at first. It'll beg for stimulation like an addict without a hit. But if you wait long enough, something powerful happens. Your real instincts rise. You start to hear your own thoughts, not recycled opinions. You feel your gut again, not the noise of social conditioning. That's when real decisions get made. Not from pressure, not from panic, but from inner alignment. Real life example. Steve Jobs was known for his long silent walks before major decisions. No meetings, no voices, just movement and thought. That's where he made some of Apple's most pivotal calls. You don't need more information. You need less distraction so the truth can finally breathe. 4. In social media, silence exposes your addiction. Take one day off social media, just one. No posts, no scroll, no likes, no lurking. Delete the app if you have to. Then watch. Watch your fingers itch to check your feed. Watch the discomfort build. Watch your anxiety spike, not because something's wrong, but because your dopamine dealer is gone. This is the test most people fail. Because silence exposes addiction. Addiction to attention. Addiction to approval. Addiction to comparison. When you remove the stimulus, the truth shows up. How little control you have over your habits. How easily you seek validation. How deeply you fear being unseen. And if you can sit in that silence without running back to the screen, you've already won. Silence teaches self-possession. It's the discipline of not always needing to react, not always needing to be seen, not always needing to perform. Because power doesn't always speak. Sometimes it just watches. Here's the part that most people don't just overlook, they run from it. Silence isn't just peaceful, it's biological power. It doesn't just calm your nerves. It rewires your mind. Let this shake you for a second. Scientific revelation, silence grows the brain. A 2013 study published in the journal Brain Structure and Function discovered something staggering. When mice were exposed to 2 hours of silence per day, they experienced neurogenesis, the growth of new cells in the hippocampus, the part of the brain that handles the memory, learning, emotional regulation. Let that hit you. Silence doesn't just soothe you, it regenerates you. While the world is chasing noise to feel alive, Silence is literally rebuilding your brain from the inside out. What this means for you in real life.
Imagine this.
You've been working, hustling, grinding. You're exhausted, foggy, scattered. Your memory slipping. Focus? Gone. You think you need more caffeine, more productivity hacks, more input. But what if the solution isn't more? What if it's less? What if every time you sit in silence, you're not wasting time?
You're healing.
Rewiring, reconnecting. We don't just suffer from burnout. We suffer from a starved brain overfed with stimulation, undernourished by peace. A 28-year-old software engineer I met, let's call him Sam, was on the edge. 6 figures, prestige, dream job, but inside broken. He'd wake up shaking, panic out of nowhere. Couldn't remember simple things, couldn't focus for more than 30 seconds. He was living in chronic cognitive overload. Doctors gave him pills. Therapists gave him words.
Nothing worked.
Until he did something radical. He went silent. No social media, no podcasts, no screens. He started with 20 minutes of silence a day, then 40, then entire silent weekends. Within 6 months, his memory came back. His anxiety dropped 70%. His joy returned.
Why?
Because silence gave his brain a chance to detox from the noise that was killing him. Silence is soul maintenance. The Stoics didn't have neuroscience, but they knew the truth. They practiced daily solitude to purify their thoughts and clarify their purpose. Withdraw into yourself. The rational soul is self-sufficient. Cum worse, Marcus Aurelius. When you enter silence, your mind sheds the illusions. The need to compare, the addiction to speed, the chaos of identity borrowed from others. You begin to hear the voice beneath the noise, not the one that's scared or confused, but the one that's always been there, the real you. Here's the ultimate psychological twist. Silence doesn't empty you. It reveals what's already there. Your mind is constantly rewiring itself. That's called neuroplasticity. But when you're overstimulated, you're wiring yourself for distraction, anxiety, shallow dopamine loops. But when you embrace silence, you're rewiring yourself for clarity. Focus for sharpest, emotional regulation, creative insight. It's not a theory. It's biology. You're not becoming boring. You're becoming dangerous in your calm. Right now, your brain is reacting to every beep, buzz, and scroll like it's under threat. Your cortisol is spiking. Your attention span is shrinking. You're not just busy, you're biologically out of balance.
And silence?
Silence is the reset button the world never taught you to press. Every minute you spend there, you get a piece of yourself back. And the longer you stay, you don't just find peace. You become the kind of person who radiates it. There is a kind of confidence the world doesn't understand. Not loud, not showy, not desperate for applause, but still solid, untouchable. It doesn't wear designer labels. It doesn't post daily affirmations. It doesn't brag, beg, or broadcast. It walks into the room and changes the air without saying a word. That is quiet confidence. And it is your most lethal weapon in a world obsessed with noise. What quiet confidence looks like in real life. It's the entrepreneur who builds in silence while everyone else flexes screenshots of success. Hatrikon, it's the woman who doesn't flaunt her body for likes because she knows her worth can't be measured in pixels. It's the man who doesn't argue back on Twitter because he's too busy building a life that silences his critics. It's the teenager who's mocked for staying focused while everyone else chases cheap attention, but who quietly becomes a future giant. Quiet confidence doesn't need permission. It doesn't wait to be crowned. It builds the throne in silence. Most people confuse confidence with performance. They think confidence is loud opinions, forced laughter, or being the center of attention. But that's not confidence. That's anxiety wearing a costume. True confidence isn't the need to be seen. It's the peace with being unseen. Self-control is strength. Right thought is mastery. Calmness is power. James Allen. And it's rare. Because quiet confidence comes from something no one can fake. Inner congruence. You say what you believe. You do what you say. You own your flaws without hiding. You're not perfect, but you're not pretending. You don't chase validation because your integrity is enough. There was once a martial artist who entered a global competition. He didn't look intimidating. No muscles, no showmanship, just calm. His opponent, jacked, loud, cocky, walked into the ring, screaming, flexing, trying to provoke him. But the calm one just stood there, eyes still, shoulders relaxed, no reaction. The bell rang. 2 moves. It was over. When asked how he stayed so calm before the fight, he said, "I already defeated him before I even touched him, because I knew myself, and he didn't." That's quiet confidence. No noise, just truth in motion. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Quiet confidence is built in solitude. It's forged when no one is watching. It's the reward of knowing who you are, even if the world doesn't clap for it. You meditate. You walk in silence. You say no to things that drain you. You choose depth over popularity. And slowly something powerful happens. You stop trying to impress and start trying to align. You become unshakable. Make no mistake, the world will hate your quiet strength.
Why?
Because insecure people need noise to feel alive. They need drama to feel powerful. They need validation to feel seen. But you walk in silence and it makes them uncomfortable. You don't beg for attention and it makes them insecure. You don't play their games and it makes you dangerous. But don't dim your light to make others comfortable in their confusion. Because quiet confidence threatens the noisy ego. And the world is full of noise. You don't need to be louder to win. You don't need to be bigger, faster, stronger, better than anyone else. You need to be clear. You need to be centered. You need to be grounded in silence so that when the chaos hits, you don't break. You lead. The world taught you to chase noise to feel alive. But the truth, noise distracts, silence reveals. In silence, your mind heals. In silence, your strength returns. In silence, you stop performing and start becoming. This isn't about being better than anyone else. It's about finally hearing the voice you've ignored for too long, your own. So sit with the silence. Let it rebuild you. Because the most dangerous person in any room is the one who's no longer afraid of being alone with themselves.